everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Legends Table on the Rock Entertainment Sports Network. We are live coming to you from the Freddie Mac Studios in Rocket Arena in the center of downtown Cleveland, Ohio. Michael Campanella Russell, yours truly, Rafa Hernández Brito. And this episode, we usually try to bring somebody from the history of the Cavaliers of Cleveland. And unfortunately, earlier this week, we received the bad news that legendary coach and player, Mr. Lenny Wilkens, had passed away. And so we had decided to try to do a little tribute for Lenny and also to get the help from Larry Nance and Mark Price, two of the key pieces of the generation that Lenny Wilkens coached here for Cleveland. He's a member of the Wall of Honor, a two-time gold medalist, a nine-time All-Star, a NBA champion, top 50 player in the NBA, top 15 coaches in the history of the NBA. My God, we could do a whole show just on his accolades, Campy, but your thoughts on, I never had a chance to meet Lenny Wilkens, but I do know the impact that he had in so many human beings.
Yeah, there's no question about it. You know, when you look at Lenny Wilkens, you know, he's had a lot of impact, particularly on the teams that was here in Cleveland, as well as the World Championship team that he had with the Seattle Supersonics. You know, when you look at both of those teams, Lenny Wilkens had his footprint, his handprint, his whatever print you want to call it. He had his print on both of those franchises in terms of how he affected the players, but also how he helped those players become the people that they are, which are good, solid citizens, as well as great basketball players. So Lenny, to me, is just one of those guys that just have that ability to really touch people, as well as connect with them, and also the most important thing is create a relationship with people.
And to help us talk a little bit about what Lenny Wilkens meant to the city of Cleveland, to the organization of the Cleveland Cavaliers, to the NBA, and most importantly, the human being that he was.
Yes.
We're going to have his point guard, Mark Price, and his power forward, Larry Nance, joining us when we come back here on Legends Table on the Rock Entertainment Sports Network. The Legends table from the Rocket Arena, more specifically the Freddie McLeod Studios. Michael Campanella Russell and Rafa Hernández with you, and we continue to do a small tribute as much as we can do to honor the life and the legend of Lenny Wilkens, a man that meant so much not only for the Cavaliers organization, but also for the game of basketball and for humanity by itself. We can have a show of 3 hours, Campi, to talk about what Lenny Wilkens meant to everybody in this show, in this building, as an organization and as a league. And you got a chance to maybe spend some time with Lenny during your player career.
Well, not only did I spend some time with Lenny, it was primarily after my playing career because of the position I'm in now with the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Director of Alumni Relations. But I tell you, Lenny was one of the finest men that I've ever met. You know, because of his humility, because of how he treated people, how people treated him, and because he was just such a dynamic guy that was all about teaching, all about winning, all about passing something on to someone else. So when you lose a guy like Lenny Wilkens, you know, that is truly a big loss for everybody who's ever come in contact with him.
And that's for sure something that we all feel right now. And I, like I said before, never had a chance to meet Lenny Wilkens and could not do justice to what he meant and what I know and read and have heard about him. So I had to call some of my friends, some of Campanella's friends, Mr. Larry Nance, a guy that spent a lot of time here in Cleveland with Lenny Wilkens, and you and I have talked a lot about Lenny before. Larry, welcome to the show. That we would wish we could receive you in a better moment or a better situation, but who better to talk about what Lenny Wilkens meant to not only the organization, but to the players he coached than you and Mark.
Well, you're right. We played with him for, he coached us for quite a while. We had a great team, and he's just a great coach, a great person. And when he told us stuff, we all listened. And when we would execute whatever he laid out there, we were successful with it. And, nobody have nothing bad to say about him, that's for sure.
One guy that I know, Campi, could say that his career was what it was and was as good as it was because of Lenny Wilkens was Mr. Mark Price, who joined us from his home in Atlanta. Mark, welcome to the show. And I know to you as well, Lenny Wilkens meant so much, not only on a professional way, but also in your personal life.
Yeah, Lenny, he was the perfect coach for me coming into the league. Obviously, Lenny, everybody knows him mostly in our era as a great coach, but he obviously was a great basketball player. He was a 9-time All-Star. I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame. And so to have a guy that was that good at my position that I was going to get to learn from, and that, it wasn't a better situation that I could have had to come into the league and played for anybody else but Lenny.
Well, Mark, that's really interesting that you put it the way you just did in terms of, just understanding how he could impact your game, and you bought into all of that. I just got a quick story here about Lenny, and it was more about the first time I ever saw Lenny play basketball was the year that he was the most valuable player in the All-Star game. And the thing that I was really impressed by watching him is how he dictated a All-Star game, meaning he had slowed the All-Star game down to where everybody was in the right place, and he just ran the game. But the other piece of it that I took from that and watching him was Lenny always went at a pace that allowed him to have a counter to whatever he does to you. And to me, I picked up a part of that and put it in my game, because that was somebody that I always looked up to with Lenny Wilkens, even though he played a guard and I played a power forward and a small forward and a guard as well. But the thing that I loved about him is just his humility, but more importantly, how I picked up some things from him because of how he played the game.
Yeah, no question about it. For me, and personality plays a lot into it sometimes too. How a coach carries himself, how he relates to his players. And the thing I loved about Lenny is Lenny wasn't a yeller or a screamer. A lot of the photo that popped up when the announcement of his death was, Lenny and me standing next to each other during a game and just talking. And that's how our relationship was. There was a mutual respect there. I respected obviously his what he had accomplished, his basketball IQ, but I think Lenny, he was a player's coach in a lot of ways because he was a former player, one, but he also understood that a coach can't see everything that's going on the court because he can only stand on the sideline, right? And so very often at times Lenny would pull me over, whether it be somebody shooting a free throw or whatever, and he might say, Mark, what do you see out there? This is what I see. And because he understood I was an extension of him, and it would give me an opportunity to say, well, I think maybe, we got a mismatch here. It might be Larry's night, over there. The guy can't guard him. Coach, let's get Larry some touches or whatever it might be. And so we were able to have those kind of conversations that helped our team. It was all about our team winning and what we could do to make that happen. But it was almost like in some ways a father-son relationship with me, and all the players had that with Lenny. But I think because I was a point guard, I was his point guard, there was that communication that had to go between us, because he expected me to do what Campy said. He expected me to kind of run the show out there and make sure everybody was in the right spots and doing what they were supposed to. And then it was my job to deliver it, when I was on the court.
And Campy and I here in the Legends Table on the Rock Entertainment Sports Network had to get the services of Mark Price and Larry Nance to try to do justice a little bit on the tribute we're trying to do to this beautiful human being that we lost this past week. And you and I, Larry, have talked about his calmness that Mark just mentioned. And I say to you, I can't come up with another coach in whatever sport you want to bring up. I haven't found one single person that can even begin trying to say something about Lenny Wilkens and say or say something bad about the man.
Yeah, and you're right. Excuse me. That was a chair.
Yeah.
We all loved him, from the number one player down to the 15th player or whatever, how many we had on the team. But they all listened to him, and when he talked, like Mark said, he never raised his voice. And during the most crucial time of games, he always was calm. So therefore, when we walked out on the floor, we was calm. And we always, like I said, we always got a good shot. If somebody twists my arm behind my back, and Mark will probably relate to this, when I first came to the team, Lenny made one mistake. He made me throw the ball in, and he learned.
And that was at the beginning of your career, your first game.
That's when I first got here. He made me throw the ball in. We ended up losing the game. We never done that again. So I'm sure Mark remember that.
Well, we're going to take a quick break here at the Legends Table. When we come back, Mark and Larry will continue helping us remember the memory, the great career, and the great human being that Lenny Wilkens was, here on the Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Welcome back, everybody, to the Legends Table. Michael Campanella Russell, Rafa. We are being joined by two guys that had the luck, I would have to say, to play for Mr. Lenny Wilkens, who passed away this past weekend. We just learned from Larry Nance that he learned from his mistakes, because that was the only time Larry Nance put the ball in bounds. Mark, I wanted to ask you, because one of the things that Larry and I talked about was how, and you mentioned the calmness of Lenny Wilkens in the huddle, and I'm sure that impacted all of you, no matter what the moment was. But how happy were you when the paper he took out of his pocket had Mark Price shooting the ball at the end? Or what percentage was it when you were the one? Because Larry said he always had a play in his pocket.
Well, I think the thing that was great about our team, that I love so much about our team, was we had a bunch of guys on our team that we didn't really care who took that last shot. We all, of course, would have wanted to take it, but you know, a lot of times it was who had the hot hand on that night, or who had the best mismatch, or, you know, our best chance of success. And so that was the beauty of our team and the guys that I played with, was it really was an unselfish group of guys. And so whatever call Lenny had a feel for that too. You know, I might have had the hot hand that night, or Brad or Larry or Hot Rod. You know, it didn't matter. But Lenny, you know, had a pulse on that, and you know, 9 times out of 10, he always got it right.
Mark, when you think about Lenny in terms of his teachings, speak to what was 2 of the things that he really impacted into you.
Well, 2 things really. The biggest thing was Lenny believed in me, and you know, there weren't a lot of people or coaches or teams in the NBA that did when I first got into the league. There weren't a lot of teams that really thought I was going to be a long-term NBA guy, much less, you know, a guy that would lead a team and make all-star teams or whatever. But Lenny believed in me, and, you know, to that point, you know, I didn't start my first year. I was a backup to John Bagley. And then over the summer, they drafted Kevin Johnson in the lottery. And everybody knows what a great player Kevin Johnson turned out to be. And in the NBA, you didn't keep 3-point guards, so it wasn't looking good for me at that moment in time. And I just remember Lenny, and, you know, particularly, you know, his right-hand guy, Dick Helm, you know, ran into me over the course of that summer and said, hey, this is a really good opportunity for you to compete for that job. And I took them at their word. I mean, most people, when a guy's drafted in the lottery, you know, they're going to start him. You know, when a franchise invests in that kind of player. So we went at it all preseason. Kevin and I, we went at it, and to Lenny's credit, and Wayne Embry as well, they legitimately gave me an opportunity to win that spot. And not only by letting me win the spot, it opened up the opportunity for us to trade Kevin Johnson midseason and get the great Larry Nance, who's sitting right next to you. And so all that unfolded because they gave me a legit shot to win the starting spot. And, you know, I give Lenny a lot of credit, because he was swimming against the grain on that one, against what most people thought would have been the wise move to make. But it allowed us to get Larry, and then we were on our way. And then the second thing that really, you know, changed, you know, the nature of my game and really helped me to become the player I became was the pick and roll. You know, most people, you know, they think of, you know, how good our pick and roll was with Brad and Larry and Hot Rod. What most people don't realize is I'd never played pick and roll my entire life. Not in college, you know, the game wasn't played that way. So that was a part of the game that really opened up with my ability to shoot the ball, a way to stretch defenses and really make it impossible. I mean, when we ran the pick and roll, we pretty much got whatever we wanted. You know, I mean, I had great big guys to play with. They set great screens for me. If I was open, I could shoot the ball, but when I'd make a couple and the defense would collapse on me, I'd always make sure I'm hitting those guys in their spots. And it was just an unstoppable offensive force for our team. And Lenny, you know, is the one that taught me how to play and to use those screens.
And when you talk about Lenny Wilkens, you know, there's so many things that you can say about him as a player, named to the top 50 list in the NBA, won. I mean, and Larry, you mentioned he was a point guard player coach, won the title as a coach, then was listed as one of the top 15 coaches in the history of the NBA. So many things you can say, but I wanted to ask you, Larry, out of all the amazing things that Lenny did, and you could say about what was you think some of his key traits as a coach or as a human being that you got to experience with him?
You know, one of the coolest things that happened, we was I asked Coach out to lunch one day, and I had this 700 horsepower Camaro. So I'm like, we walked out to the parking lot, and I'm in it, and I said, Coach, I'll just meet you there. He's like, no, I'll ride with you. So we jumped in that car, and I got on it a little bit, and he was like, well, I know you're not going to hurt yourself, so I'm not worried one bit. But he hung out with me just like a teammate, and we talked about stuff, and we didn't have to talk about basketball with our team the whole time. We talked about my kids and the way they was coming up. So he was like a coach, but a very close friend at the same time. And you know, you just can't find many coaches that can do both like that, because a lot of players wouldn't trust him. But that man right there, you could trust him with anything, and his knowledge was just off the table, just great.
Well, that was one of the, I had the fortunate to be in his presence in terms of being on one of these Olympic teams that played.
Two-time Olympic winner, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah, exactly.
I skipped that.
Exactly, but I had the opportunity to play on an NBA team that was playing against the Olympic guys out in Seattle, and Lenny was coaching the team. And I tell you, when I left out of there, I was really impressed about how his demeanor was, how he coached, how he talked to you. I mean, just how he interacted. So for me, to this day, that's why, every time I saw Lenny, I always spoke with him and talked to him about different things, and he always had something good to impart on you. So that's the beauty of a guy named Lenny Wilkens, and that's how he was for me.
And just to be fair to Mr. Lenny Wilkens, and I know he was so proud of what he did and his time spent here in Cleveland, also elected to Cleveland Cavaliers Wall of Honor. So when you're at Rocket Arena next time, come by the Wall of Honor in the atrium and take a look at all the amazing people that are there, including Mr. Lenny Wilkens. When we come back, we have our final thoughts here on the Legends Table on the Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Welcome back, everybody. Down the stretch we come on the small trivia we are trying to make for Mr. Lenny Wilkens here on the Legends Table on the Rock Entertainment Sports Network. Final thoughts. We got to start with the point guard. And Mark, can you just give us, we have a minute for each of you, just your thought of if you were asked to talk about Mr. Lenny Wilkens, what is the most important thing that you would like to get across, or the thing that was most important to you?
The thing that's most important to me was the character of Lenny Wilkens, and like I said, just in my personal situation with him, and trying to make my way in the NBA. This was a guy that when he said something, you could trust it, you could believe it, and he believed in me. And so I know most players, and Larry will probably say similar things, but I just thoroughly enjoyed play. It was a blessing for me to play for that man, and I learned so much, and he was a big reason that I became a successful player in the league.
And for you, Larry, I know coming to Cleveland was something that you maybe at the beginning didn't think it was going to be the great thing, but also not only coming to this beautiful city, but getting to play for a gentleman like Lenny Wilkens.
Yeah, just so smart, getting to know him. And when I came here, first he had me playing the 3 spot, and that wasn't quite working out. Then he put me to the 4 spot and things. He just make adjustments, and just how smart he is, and how great a person he is, and he just was always there for us. And like we said, we tried to execute some of the things he said, and we were very successful. And Coach was just a great person, and it was just wonderful being around him.
Thank you, Campy. Thank you, Larry. And thank you, Mark, for late notice here to join us on Legends Table. I never had a chance to meet Lenny Wilkens, but my only advice to you watching is if you know about Lenny Wilkens and you have children, teach them about him. And if you don't know about Lenny Wilkens and everything he did for the Cavaliers, for the game of basketball, and for humanity alone, just go ahead and look him up and enjoy what a beautiful human he was. Yes. And again, didn't get a chance to meet him, but I did get to learn a lot about reading about him. So that's all we have here in this episode of Legends Corner. Gracias, Mark. Gracias, Larry. Gracias, Michael Campanella Russell. I'm Rafa. See you next week on the Rock Entertainment Sports Network.